Scene start. Voiceover. Fast, precise, urgent. The sound is wrong. That's the first thing. Not loud, not a bang or a crash. It's a subtle shift in harmony. A single violin string, a microtone flat in a symphony of machinery. In Control Room B of the Natanz fuel enrichment plant, Arash Rahimi hears it. He's a senior shift engineer, a graduate of Sharif University of Technology. A man whose entire career has been a testament to obsessive precision. For 6 years, his world has been the constant, deep-throated hum of 1,000 IR-1 centrifuges spinning at precisely 54,000 revolutions per minute. He knows their song, every harmonic, every overtone. And this is a new note. A discordant, high-frequency whine that pierces the bass drone of the Cascade halls. It's a ghost frequency, barely at the edge of human hearing, a needle of sound that lasts no more than 5 seconds, then vanishes. He checks the main SCADA console, his eyes scanning the array of Siemens WinCC displays, all green. Every single indicator on the S7 monitoring system reports nominal performance. Cascade pressure, stable at 120 tori. Rotor temperature, holding at 60 degrees Celsius, within 0.1 degrees of optimal. Uranium hexafluoride, UF6, flow rate, perfect at 50 grams per minute. Power consumption metrics for the frequency converters are flatline. The piezoelectric acoustic sensors, calibrated to detect the slightest bearing wear, report a perfect sine wave. The machine says the symphony is flawless. Arash's ears say there is a traitor in the orchestra. He stands, his ergonomic chair scraping on the polished concrete floor, and walks to the triple-paned, reinforced glass window overlooking Hall A below. Rows upon rows of tall, slender centrifuges spin in a hypnotic, silent ballet. They are the heart of his nation's pride and the world's fear. Nothing looks out of place. No visible vibration shimmers the heat haze rising from the motors. No warning lights are tripped on the Cascade control panels. He turns to his junior engineer, a young man named Reza, who is meticulously cross-referencing telemetry logs from the previous shift. Did you hear that? Reza looks up from his logbook, a frown of concentration on his face. Hear what, sir? The number 3 air handler is cycling. Perhaps that? Arash listens again, straining his ears against the background noise. The whine is gone, vanished as quickly as it came. He shakes his head, a flicker of self-doubt in his eyes. Nothing, a ghost in the machine. He sits back down, but his eyes stay fixed on the green lights of the console. The lights are lying. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know why. But in his gut, a cold certainty forms. The ghost is real, and it's hunting. He pulls up the diagnostic logs for Cascade 4, the sector closest to his control room. He doesn't just look at the surface data. He initiates a deep spectral analysis of the power draw from the last 5 minutes, plotting the frequency against the amplitude. The data is clean, too clean. There are none of the micro-fluctuations, the tiny statistical jitters he would expect from a system of this complexity with thousands of interconnected parts. It's as if the data isn't a real-time feed from a chaotic physical system, but a perfect, repeating digital loop. He flags it for the morning review with the plant director, adding a note in red. Anomalous data smoothness, Cascade 4. Possible sensor spoofing, recommend physical inspection. 2 days later, Centrifuge A26 in Cascade 4 shatters. The sound is unmistakable this time, a sharp crack like a rifle shot followed by a violent metallic shriek as the miraging steel rotor disintegrates at supersonic speed. The thin aluminum containment casing holds, but the event is logged as catastrophic material failure. A week after that, 6 more in Cascade. 2 tear themselves apart. then 18 in Cascade 1, then 50 across 3 different halls. The symphony is collapsing into a cacophony of destruction. The official explanation, delivered by a grim-faced committee from Tehran, is poor quality miraging steel in the rotor assemblies, a consequence of international sanctions forcing them to rely on substandard suppliers. A witch hunt begins for corrupt procurement officers. Arash Rahimi is summoned to the plant director's office. He presents his logs, the spectral analysis showing the unnaturally smooth data just before the first failure. He tells them about the sound, about the lying green lights. The director, a political appointee named Firuz, a man who understands loyalty better than physics, dismisses it out of hand. Engineer Rahimi, you are looking for complex conspiracies when the answer is simple incompetence and foreign sabotage of our supply chain. Do not pursue these fantasies. Arash is then interrogated for 3 days by agents from the Ministry of Intelligence, VIVAC. They are not interested in his theories. They are interested in his loyalty. They take him to a windowless room and ask the same questions for hours. Who has he spoken to? Does he have foreign contacts? Why is he trying to undermine the official findings? They call his report stress-induced auditory hallucination. They tell him he is lucky to keep his job. He is transferred to a paperwork position in Isfahan, cataloging spare parts inventories. He is no longer allowed near the machines. But Arash knows what he heard. He knows the symphony was sabotaged. What he doesn't know is that the conductor of this chaos is sitting 1,500 kilometers away in a darkened, temperature-controlled room in Tel Aviv, watching a single, blinking cursor on a screen. The ghost had a name, and its work was just beginning. This story doesn't start in a control room. It starts 6 years earlier, on March 14, 2002, with a single pixel on a satellite photograph taken by an Israeli OFEC 5 reconnaissance satellite. A pixel that wasn't there the day before. On a screen in the headquarters of Amman, Israeli military intelligence, specifically within Unit 9900, the Visual Intelligence Division, an analyst flags an anomaly. The location, a barren patch of desert, 40 kilometers from the city of Kashan, Iran. The pixel resolves into a fresh concrete pour, a perfect rectangle in the ochre dust. The next day, more. A week later, the outline of a massive industrial building, 25,000 square meters. The analyst cross-references the construction signature with a database of known facility types. The deep excavation, the thickness of the initial concrete walls, it matches only one profile. A gas centrifuge enrichment plant. 2 months later, SA-15 Gauntlet anti-aircraft batteries appear on the perimeter. The facility is being built underground, beneath 25 feet of reinforced concrete and granite. It has no official name. It doesn't appear on any maps, but Israeli intelligence knows what it is. It's the pilot fuel enrichment plant. Codename, Natanz, the heart of a nuclear weapons program. This single data point triggers a cascade of its own, not of centrifuges, but of decisions made in secret meetings under the highest levels of classification. The file is given a code name, Operation Olympic Games on the American side. Following a joint intelligence sharing agreement, Operation Cascade in Israel. The objective? To delay, disrupt, and dismantle the Iranian nuclear program without firing a single shot. A military strike is deemed too inflammatory. It would unite the Muslim world against the West, ignite a full-scale regional war, and drive the remnants of the program deeper underground. Diplomacy is a slow, grinding process, and Iran is accelerating its enrichment faster than sanctions can bite. A third option is needed, A new kind of war. The mission is handed to a man known only as Yossi. He is the head of the Caesarea department within Mossad, the unit responsible for special operations. Yossi is a ghost himself. His official photograph has not been taken in 20 years. His biography is a collection of redacted files. He was a field officer in Beirut during the Civil War. He ran the network that tracked and eliminated the Black September terrorists after the Munich massacre. An operation that relied not on bombs, but on meticulous, patient intelligence work. His defining skill is not brute force, but strategic corrosion. He understands that the most effective weapon is one the enemy never sees coming. A weapon that makes the enemy doubt his own machines, his own men, his own reality. He assembles his team, not with soldiers, but with specialists. The first is Tamar. She is 24 years old, a captain in Unit 8200, Israel's elite cyber warfare division. She doesn't look like a weapon. She wears glasses, prefers the glow of a terminal in a dark room to sunlight, and her record shows she failed basic rifle training twice. But in the world of ones and zeros, she is a master assassin. Her breakthrough came 6 months prior. She had spent a year reverse engineering the firmware for the Siemens S7300 and S7400 series PLCs, the German-made industrial control systems used in power plants, water treatment facilities, and, according to intelligence, the centrifuge cascades at Natanz. Using a technique called fuzzing, she built a custom rig that bombarded a test unit with millions of malformed data packets day and night for weeks. After generating over 1 terabyte of crash logs, she analyzed the memory dumps to find the flaws. She discovered 4 separate zero-day vulnerabilities, flaws in the code unknown to Siemens, unknown to anyone. One was in the way the PLC parsed code blocks, allowing for arbitrary code execution. Another was a privilege escalation flaw in the kernel. She could make the machine lie. She could make it tell the operators everything was normal while she gave it secret commands. She could become the ghost. The second team member is David. He is the opposite of Tamar. A major in Sayeret Matkal, the IDF's top special forces unit. He speaks 4 languages, including fluent Farsi, with a Tehran accent learned from his immigrant parents, who fled during the 1979 revolution. His file lists operations in Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. He is an expert in human intelligence, in turning assets, in operating under deep cover where a single mistake means a public execution. Flashback, Damascus, Syria, 2 years earlier. David sits in a smoky cafe, the air thick with the smell of cardamom and apple tobacco. He is Javier, a Spanish art dealer. Across from him sits a Syrian Air Force colonel, a man with a taste for expensive watches and a gambling problem. For 3 months, David has cultivated him, talking about art, football, and the frustrations of military bureaucracy. Today is the final move. The pre-Columbian artifacts you admired, David says softly in Arabic. They could be yours, a gift. My associates in Madrid are very generous to their friends. The colonel's eyes glitter with greed. And what do your associates want in return? David slides a small, innocuous-looking photograph across the table. It's an aerial view of an airbase. Just this. We need to know the patrol schedules for the MiG-29s at this specific hangar. Nothing more, a simple piece of information for a man of your stature. The colonel hesitates. This is treason. David leans in, his voice dropping to a whisper. Your wife does not know about the apartment you keep in Meze, does she? Or the girl from the university? Or the money you lost at the tables in Beirut? My associates are very thorough. They know everything. The choice is simple, Colonel. A gift between friends or a series of very unfortunate revelations. The colonel's face pales. He looks at David, really looks at him for the first time, and sees not a Spanish art dealer, but a predator. He slowly nods. The asset is turned. In present day, Tel Aviv. David's job for Operation Cascade is to bridge the gap between Tamar's digital world and the physical reality of Natanz. Because Natanz is air-gapped, the control systems are not connected to the internet. You cannot hack it from Tel Aviv or Maryland. You have to walk the weapon through the front door. David's task is to find someone to carry it. The final piece of the puzzle is not an Israeli. He is a Dutch engineer named Jan van der Meer, a specialist in vacuum technology and pressure dynamics. He works for a German engineering firm that, despite sanctions, has a maintenance contract for non-critical systems, specifically the vacuum pumps and exhaust systems, at the Natanz facility. He is in his late 50s, divorced, with a daughter in university whose tuition is crippling. Mossad's financial intelligence branch, using an echelon intercept of swift bank transfers, flags a series of unusually large, undeclared cash deposits totaling over 80,000 euros in a Cypriot bank account belonging to van der Meer. They trace the source, a shell corporation in Dubai linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Dutchman is taking bribes for providing minor technical specifications and maintenance schedules. He is already compromised. He just doesn't know who is watching. For Yossi, Jan van der Meer is the perfect vector. Not a zealot, not a spy. Just a man who has already made a small compromise. And a small compromise is a door. All Yossi's team needs to do is push it open. The geopolitical chessboard is primed for conflict. In 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is elected president of Iran. His rhetoric is inflammatory. He calls for Israel to be wiped off the map. The rhetoric is backed by action. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, reports that Iran has resumed uranium conversion activities at its Isfahan facility. They are producing the uranium hexafluoride, UF6, gas that will eventually be fed into the centrifuges at Natanz. The world watches. Sanctions are debated at the UN. But in Tel Aviv, the mood is different. They see it not as a political problem, but as an existential threat. The Israeli defense doctrine, the Begin Doctrine, is built on a simple, brutal premise. Never again. Never again will an enemy of the State of Israel be allowed to obtain weapons of mass destruction. The intelligence assessments landing on the Prime Minister's desk are stark. By 2007, Iran has nearly 3,000 centrifuges spinning at Natanz. By 2009, that number will triple to over 8,000. They are enriching uranium to 3.5%, suitable for a power plant. But the process to get from 3.5% to the 90% needed for a weapon is a matter of time, not technology. The breakout time. The time it would take to produce enough weapons-grade material for a single bomb is shrinking. From years to months. Soon, it will be weeks. The operational environment is fraught with risk. The CIA is running its own network of assets in Iran, focused on political intelligence, creating a dangerous potential for operational overlap and unintentional exposure. At the same time, a bitter internal rivalry between Iran's VVAC and the IRGC's own intelligence directorate means the country is blanketed in paranoid surveillance, with each agency trying to catch the other's spies as much as foreign ones. David will be walking into a minefield of counterintelligence. The mission's genesis, however, comes not from an Iranian source, but from a German one. In early 2008, a Mossad Katza, field officer, in Munich, cultivates a relationship with a disgruntled sales engineer at Siemens. Over months of careful conversation, Fueled by expensive wine and a shared passion for vintage Porsche 911s, the engineer complains about his clients. He mentions a recent, unusual order from a Dubai-based front company called Al Fajr Technical Services. A massive shipment of S7300 and S7400 controllers, destined, he believes, for Iran. But it's the details of the order that set off alarms in Tel Aviv. The controllers were ordered with a very specific, custom firmware configuration and a unique set of Profibus network addresses. The Mossad officer, feigning technical interest in industrial automation for a new business venture, gets a copy of the configuration file. When Tamar and her team analyze it, they realize what they're looking at. It's a blueprint of the Natanz control network. The exact hardware IDs, the specific network addresses, the precise layout of the 164 centrifuge cascades. The Iranians, through their front company, have handed their enemy the keys to the kingdom. This intelligence transforms Operation Cascade from a theoretical possibility into an actionable plan. The problem is no longer what to attack, but how to deliver the payload. Yossi convenes a meeting. The options are reviewed. Could they infect the Siemens controllers before they are shipped from Germany? Too risky. The chain of custody is too complex. The infection could be detected during customs inspection or initial setup. Could they use a drone to broadcast a signal that would infect the systems wirelessly? The facility is shielded against electromagnetic interference. The signal would never penetrate the concrete bunker. The conclusion is unavoidable. It has to be a physical insertion. It has to be a human being. It has to be a USB stick. The plan is simple in concept, terrifyingly complex in execution. David would enter Iran under a new identity. A Canadian mining consultant named Paul Adams, representing a fictitious company, Boreal Geoservices, looking to invest in Iran's copper industry. He would establish a presence, build a routine. Then he would make contact with Jan van der Meer. He would not recruit him. He would handle him. The recruitment was already done by the Iranians themselves. David would simply change the Dutchman's employer. The plan is set in motion on a Tuesday in September. David, now Paul Adams, lands at Imam Khomeini International Airport in Tehran. His passport is a work of art created by Mossad's forgery unit. It has the correct paperweight, the correct watermarks, and a history of travel stamps from Canada, Turkey, and the UAE. His legend is backed by a fully functional website for Boreal Geoservices, a registered corporate address in Toronto, and a Canadian mobile number that routes to a Mossad call center. His luggage contains geological survey maps and business suits. Tucked into the lining of his laptop bag is a micro-dot communicator, capable of sending encrypted burst transmissions of less than 1 second, detectable only if you knew exactly what frequency to monitor at the exact moment of transmission. His first week is a study in mundane legitimacy. He meets with officials from the Ministry of Industries and Mines. He tours potential survey sites in Kerman province. He establishes a pattern of life that is boring, predictable, and utterly devoid of anything suspicious. He is just another Western businessman chasing a profit in a frontier market. His first contact with Jan van der Meer is engineered to look like a complete accident. Mossad knows van der Meer is a creature of habit. Every Thursday night, he dines at the same Armenian restaurant in the Vanak neighborhood of Tehran. David, as Paul Adams, takes a table nearby. He, accidentally, knocks over a glass of water, splashing van der Meer's jacket. Apologies are made. A conversation is struck up. Two expatriates, lonely and far from home. They talk about business, about the difficulties of working in Iran, about the food. It's a soft, gentle approach. No mention of Natanz, No hint of anything covert. They agree to meet for a drink the following week. The hook is set. The technology Tamar's team has developed is unlike anything created before. The code, which they call Stuxnet, internally after a combination of file keywords found in the program, stub and mrxnet.sys, is a multi-stage weapon. Stage 1 is the dropper, the code that lives on the USB stick. When the stick is inserted into a Windows computer, it uses a zero-day vulnerability in the way Windows handles .lnk shortcut files, later designated CVE-2010-2568, to execute itself without any user interaction. It doesn't need anyone to click on a file. Just inserting the drive is enough. Once on a machine, it becomes a ghost. It checks to see if the computer is connected to a Siemens Step 7 environment. If not, it does nothing but look for other USB sticks to copy itself onto, turning every infected machine into a potential carrier, spreading silently through the Iranian industrial sector. This is the genius of its design. It's a contagion, but a selective one. It's looking for a very specific target. If the worm finds itself on an engineer's laptop that is then used to program the PLCs at Natanz, it moves to stage 2. It crosses the air gap using another zero-day that exploits the way Step 7 loads code blocks onto a PLC. It infects the Siemens controllers themselves. Now, it's inside the control network. But still, it does nothing. It enters stage 3, reconnaissance. It listens. It fingerprints the network, mapping the connections between the PLCs, identifying which controllers are connected to the centrifuge motor's frequency converters, specifically models made by 2 companies, Vakon in Finland and Ferraro Paya in Iran. It is looking for a very specific configuration, a cascade of 164 IR-1 centrifuges, operating at a specific pressure and flow rate. It is looking for the exact digital fingerprint of the Natanz enrichment hall. If it doesn't find it, the worm goes dormant and, after a set period, erases itself, leaving no trace. If it does find the target, it activates stage 4, the attack. But the attack itself is a masterpiece of deception. It doesn't just order the centrifuges to destroy themselves. That would be too obvious. Instead, it begins a subtle, insidious process. It records 21 seconds of normal, healthy operational data from the centrifuge cascade. The pressure, the temperature, the spin speed. Then, it begins its assault. It secretly takes control of the frequency converters. It first ramps up the speed from the normal 1064 Hz to 1410 Hz for 15 minutes. This creates immense stress on the delicate rotor assemblies, pushing them past their design tolerance and dangerously close to their harmonic resonance frequency. Then, it drops the speed down to a dangerously low 2 Hz for a full 50 minutes. This causes the spinning UF6 gas to partially solidify, creating uneven weight distribution and violent vibrations. Then, it repeats the cycle, over and over, for weeks. All the while, it performs its most brilliant trick. It replays the 21 seconds of recorded healthy data to the operator's console. The engineers in the control room see nothing wrong. The green lights stay green. The readouts are perfect. The machine is screaming in agony, but the worm has gagged it. It's the perfect crime. A murder where the victim's body is programmed to report that it's in perfect health, right up until the moment it disintegrates. David's second meeting with John van der Meer takes place in a quiet hotel bar. The conversation is friendly, but David steers it. He mentions a mutual acquaintance, a businessman in Dubai named Tariq Al-Jamil. He uses the name van der Meer will recognize as the man who runs the shell company for the Revolutionary Guard. Van der Meer's composure cracks for a fraction of a second. His eyes widen. His hand, holding his glass of scotch, trembles slightly. David doesn't press. He changes the subject. But the message has been delivered. We know who you work for. A week later, they meet again, this time in the privacy of David's hotel room. David is direct. He lays a photograph on the table. It's of van der Meer's daughter, walking to class at Leiden University. She's studying art history, David says calmly. An expensive degree. It would be a shame if her father's extracurricular income were to be discovered by the Dutch authorities. A tax evasion case would be unpleasant, or worse, if his Iranian employers discovered he was an unacceptable security risk, a man who talks to strange foreign businessmen in hotel bars. The threat is unspoken but crystal clear. Van der Meer is trapped. He is a man caught between two clandestine worlds, and both have the power to destroy him. He agrees to cooperate. But now, the first major setback occurs. The plan was for van der Meer to use his own work laptop to introduce the worm. He would plug in the USB drive, the worm would copy itself, and the next time he connected his laptop to the diagnostic network at Natanz, the infection would spread. But 2 days before the scheduled handoff, van der Meer calls a panic-stricken coded message to a dead drop number. There's been a policy change at Natanz. A minor security incident, a technician caught with a pirated movie on his work computer, has led to a new directive from the head of facility security, an IRGC hardliner. No outside laptops are to be connected to the internal network for any reason. All diagnostic work must be done on facility-provided terminals. The primary infection vector is gone. The plan is dead in the water. In Tel Aviv, the news is received with grim silence. Yossi, Tamar, and the rest of the team are gathered in their windowless command center. For weeks, David has been incommunicado, running on operational silence to avoid detection during the sensitive recruitment phase. Now they have a message, and it's a catastrophic failure. The debate is intense. A senior Mossad director argues to pull David out. The risk is too high. The mission is compromised. Tamar, however, sees an opportunity. She argues that the new policy creates a different kind of vulnerability. The shared, facility-provided terminals are a perfect breeding ground for a worm designed to spread via removable media. She says, her voice sharp and clear. If they all use the same few workstations, it's a monoculture. We infect one, we infect them all. It's a force multiplier. We can no longer target van der Meer's specific access. We have to infect the entire ecosystem. It's less precise, more aggressive, but it's the only way. Yossi, trusting his young coder's logic, approves the new plan. The problem is now delivery. How to get the worm onto a closed system? They need a new asset. Someone with less access than van der Meer, but less scrutiny. David is tasked with the most dangerous phase of the operation, finding a second weak link in the Natanz chain. His search leads him to a small electronics shop in Kashan that has a repair contract for printers and other non-sensitive peripherals inside the Natanz facility. The owner is a man named Farhad. David's surveillance reveals Farhad is a gambler, deeply in debt to local loan sharks. Using a cutout, an intermediary with no knowledge of the larger operation, Mossad pays off Farhad's debts. In return, Farhad is asked to do a simple favor. A friend needs a few USB drives, identical to the ones used by Natanz staff, loaded with some updated printer driver software. The drives are supplied. One of them contains Stuxnet. This introduces the second major complication. As David is managing the new vector through Farhad, A counterintelligence sweep by Iran's Vivac rolls through Kashan. They are not looking for Mossad. They are hunting for MEK dissidents who have been distributing anti-regime pamphlets. But in their wide net, they catch David's cutout, the intermediary. He is arrested on suspicion of anti-government activities. Under interrogation, he knows nothing about Israelis or a cyber attack. But he does mention a shady foreign businessman who paid him a large sum of cash to deal with an electronics repairman named Farhad. David receives a one-word burst transmission from Tel Aviv. Compromised. He has to vanish. He executes his emergency escape plan. He burns his Paul Adams identity, destroying the passport and all related documents in a hotel sink. He moves to a pre-arranged safe house in Isfahan, going completely dark. For 72 hours, the team in Tel Aviv has no idea if he is alive, captured, or on the run. The operation is hanging by a thread. David, isolated and hunted, has to make a choice. Abort the mission and exfiltrate through the pre-planned escape route across the Zagros Mountains into Iraq, or see it through. He knows Vivac will be working their way down the chain of association from the cutout to Farhad. He has, at most, 48 hours before they reach the electronics shop. He decides to risk it. He makes one final, unscheduled contact. He finds Farhad at his shop, gives him a bundle of cash, and tells him to deliver the USB drives to Natanz immediately, on his next scheduled visit. He then walks away, melting into the crowds of the Isfahan Bazaar.